If you're just joining, if you're just getting on here, I'm Seth Dahl, Children's Pastor at Bethel Church here in Redding, California. We're about to have kids' church in a few minutes, and we've been talking about classroom management here, so just figured I'd do a several-part series on classroom management for you guys on here, and we're in part 2 tonight. I'm not going to wait too long to get started because I don't have tons and tons of time, but yeah, if you know somebody that works with kids and could use this, you can swipe to the left depending on your device, but if you're on an iOS device, you can swipe to the left and share it with your followers, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. You can invite people to watch. So if you know people who this could help them, please share it. And then I'm just going to do a quick review. You guys ready? Last week in classroom management, I kind of gave the foundations of classroom management. I said, we are not trying to get control of a room full of children. We are trying to make a connection with each and every one of them. And that is the goal. I talked about boundaries without freedom is religion, and freedom without boundaries is chaos. And that's why we're talking about managing classrooms, because probably if you work with kids, you've had some days that are chaotic and you don't know how to set boundaries, and it's a challenge. And so I've been doing children's ministry 14 years, and I have some tools I would love to share with you. Last week I talked about the water slide that had no sides, and kids don't actually want a water slide with no slides. They like boundaries. Boundaries keep things fun and safe and good. So here's what I'm going to do tonight. I'm going to talk about classroom management and a technique we used in New York. I worked at Metro Ministries for 4 years in New York City. This is a technique we used with 1,000 children from the ghetto in the room at one time, and you could hear a pin drop on the carpet with this technique. We used to use it here in kids' church with smaller numbers, 90 kids, 95 kids, 100 kids. We do still use it out on the sidewalk Sunday school. This technique I'm going to teach you tonight is really good for anything outdoors. And it's really good if you just have kids that need some good, they need good, quick consequences. That's what I'm calling this one, actually. Creating internal controls through consequences. You know, if we don't allow our kids to face consequences, both good consequences and bad consequences, they don't really learn. And they don't learn that their choices matter and that their choices mean something and cause things to happen. So what I'm going to talk to you tonight about is definitely about allowing consequences. So here's a quick verse. Tonight I'm going to share this technique. Tonight I'm going to share this way to manage a classroom. Again, like I said, it's not how we do it here right now. Next week I'm going to share that. So I'll tell you how we do it here. But depending on where you're from, depending on your environment, the kids you have, just your setup, this could really, really help. How long should I expect this lesson to last? Probably 15 minutes at the most. So here we go. When kids know that their choices have consequences, both good or bad, then it actually helps them create internal controls, because they begin to think, if I do this, that happens. If I do this, that happens. And this technique is called quiet seats. Sorry, I'm just trying to look at my notes because I'm trying to make sure I get everything down here. You know, sometimes when you talk about stuff like this, consequences, good consequences especially, quiet seats. There are people who get a little bit uncertain about using rewards and things like that, but the Bible says in Hebrews 11:6, we must believe that God is, and we must believe that He's a rewarder of those who seek Him. And so to create an environment in a classroom where children get rewarded for seeking God, whether that's worship, whether that's listening to the lesson that the team has put together, when a child is seeking God and they get rewarded for it, that's what God calls faith that is pleasing to Him. And if we don't believe that, it's not pleasing to Him. He's a rewarder of those who seek him. So we're creating a culture and we're creating a classroom where rewards are possible, rewards can happen, rewards are what the kids can expect for their choices, and they can expect consequences for their choices as well. So here's how Quiet Seats works. So you need balloons. You see this right here? I'm waiting for it to catch up so I can see. We use balloons. Now here's how it works. You'd have the boys on one side, the girls on the other, and each side would get 3 balloons. And so you explain to the kids, all right guys, here we are, we're going to start the lesson. You are welcome to talk if you want, but if you talk, so let's say the boys talk, I'm going to walk over here and pop one of the boys' balloons. Now if a second boy talks, I'm going to pop a second balloon. And if a third boy talks, I'm going to pop the third balloon. Now here's the bummer. If you choose to talk 3 times and all 3 balloons get popped, then the candy that I have to give you on the way out the door now is going to go to the other side. Now is going to go to the girls' side. But girls, you also have 3 balloons over on your side. So if you're talking, I'll walk over here. I'm not going to tell you to hush or be quiet. I'll just walk over and pop a balloon. If another girl talks, I'll pop another balloon. If a third girl talks, I'll pop the third balloon. And girls, if you get all 3 of your balloons popped because you're talking during the lesson, totally fine. Not a problem for me. Not a problem for the boys. But you will have to give your candy to all the boys, and they'll go home with double candy. Now, with this, what we used here, what Metro used in New York, is candy. So that way, if you were caught listening, we don't want everyone's attention just being on what's going wrong and what's bad. But in New York, they would have people walking around with bags of candy. And if the teachers caught you listening and paying attention, they'd just slip a piece of candy into your lap. All the other kids would notice, and then they would sit up straight and pay attention to the lesson because they all want candy. They know I get rewarded for paying attention in church. I get rewarded for seeking God. Now, what we do here is we do tickets. So if you get a ticket, then at the end of the day, we're going to do a drawing, and you have more. The more tickets you get, the more chances you have to draw. I'll explain that more next week, but that's kind of our rewards for good choices, for making choices to listen and seek God. Now, here's what I love about this method. Like I said, consequences allow children to develop internal controls. They start to think, if I do this, that happens. Do I actually want to do that? If I do this, that happens. Do I actually want to do that? And they begin to process inside what they actually want to do based on the outcome. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Boys need it really bad because their frontal lobe needs help thinking like that and developing that. What age does this technique start being taught? In New York, we would teach it at 4 or 5 years old, and they got it. I mean, there would be 1,000 kids in the room, silent, because they know I want candy, and I want to listen to get it, and if I talk, I lose balloons. Here's the beautiful thing that this creates. You know, in children's ministry, I take it very seriously. I believe we are supposed to raise children who are healthy in every area of their lives, and learning that my choices affect the people around me, and the people that I put around me, their choices affect me. The beautiful thing about Quiet Seats is this. Say one boy is talking and he gets a balloon popped. And then another boy, and then he's talking with his friend. Same kid gets 2 balloons popped. And then a third time he's talking and a third balloon gets popped. Now there's ways to help this before it just goes one kid popping 3 balloons. But if one child pops 3 balloons and all the boys have to give their candy to the girls, I'll tell you what, the kids start realizing the people I surround myself with make choices that affect me. Teenagers, you can do the same thing. We use it with teenagers as well. Works with any age. You could probably even use this for adults, but most time with adults, they actually listen, no problem. But here's what it creates this environment of accountability as well. Because if a kid starts to talk and the neighbors around him are like, I don't actually want to lose my candy and I don't want to lose a balloon, so they'll tell him, shh. They'll tell him to be quiet. They'll tell him to hush. Sorry, I missed that question. Can you ask it again in a little bit? Or I am going to do another bunch more questions at another time. But it brings in accountability. So instead of teachers having to correct all the time, actually the kids can correct each other because they don't want to lose their balloons. They don't want to lose their candy. So they'll adjust each other. And what also happens is they realize whoever I have around me, their choices affect me and my choices affect them. My choices are so powerful, they affect all the boys on this side and all the girls. They affect the girls positively and the boys negatively. So they actually begin to think about that kind of stuff. Someone said, do you use this every time you talk? We used to, yes. Right now we don't actually use this technique. I'm just trying to give several different ways that we do things. I'm actually going to give you 2 real distinct ways we do things. This one today, next week I'm going to do another one called the agreements that we do here at Bethel. I'll explain it later, but I plan to do like 7 parts to this series, maybe 8. We'll see how many we get to. But that's the quiet seats. It's beautiful. Positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement. Rewards, consequences both directions. If the boys are totally silent, they all go home with their candy. And if they get caught being silent as an individual, they get another thing slipped to them. They get rewarded for that. It also creates a place where your teachers are looking to catch kids doing good. They're looking to catch kids seeking God. They're looking to reward kids who are seeking God. So here's a question. We're gonna do a couple questions. I got a couple more minutes. Do the kids keep talking when the balloons are all gone and all hope of candy is lost? Excellent question. In New York, all hope of candy was lost when the balloons were gone. I'm so glad you asked this question. Here at Bethel, when we were doing this, we actually created a way for the kids to get a balloon back. And so what we would do is we'd have a kid who would be like the volunteer to represent all the boys, and he would go sit in a certain place, and it was like a hot air balloon thing, and he'd go sit in the hot air balloon thing, and as long as everyone was quiet, his hot air balloon would fill back up, and then the boys would get a balloon back. So it only happened a few times where the boys would lose all their balloons. We'd ask for a volunteer, and a boy would go back and volunteer. And as long as the kids were silent, the balloon filled back up, and they could win their candy back. So that's good. What if you have kids that struggle with impulse control? Well, we did this in New York City. They would do 4 balloons on each side. And these were children from the projects, from the homeless shelters. These were children from the ghettos of New York, Brooklyn, Bronx, Harlem, Queens, Coney Island. These were some of the roughest neighborhoods in New York City, roughest kids in the neighborhoods. These kids were nuts sometimes. Honestly, it was hard. Special needs, ADHD, anger issues, all kinds of stuff. And when those balloons turned on, when the quiet seats turned on, those kids would go totally silent. Teachers actually would come to Metro Ministries and say, how in the world, we can't do this with 20 kids. How do you do it with 1,000? I'm telling you, this works. It takes a little process of education, but a couple weeks in, these kids will get it. They'll know it. You pop one balloon, they will sit right up and pay attention. Any other questions? If you have any questions, you are free to ask them right now. I'm hoping this helps you. Positive reinforcement, yes. If you miss that part, we're watching for positive reinforcement all the time as well. But this is a really good tool for, like, if you have a lot of kids and not a lot of team, this helps because the person on the stage can actually manage the entire room by themselves. I've seen 400 kids with 400 kids in one spot with 3 people, and the 3 people manage the class no problem. Sorry, I missed that question. How strict are you when it comes to popping the balloon? Well, you got to be able to hear them. You don't want to be super, super strict, but if they're distracting the kids around them, then you want to pop a balloon. In smaller groups, to use fewer balloons. I probably wouldn't do less than 2. So family problems I'd look for, if families have problems with candy, sometimes we do small little prizes, so then the kids actually get to choose. If you're not allowed to have candy, please don't pick candy. Please get yourself one of those little prizes on the way out. So that way, because we do have families here that don't like it, we also bought organic sugar candy for a long time too to help. I'm not the biggest fan of candy, but I do know it motivates kids really well. Where can we find your resources? At website SethDahl.com. And actually, that's what I wanted to mention too. You can go on SethDahl.com and there's a page called Start Here, and you can hold on, I'll get to that in a second. You can click I'm a children's pastor or I'm a parent, and you can download free resources right there. You can see all the resources we have available. You can sign up for our mailing list. If you sign up for our mailing list, then I can send you notifications when we do stuff like this. And SethDahl.com is where all our resources are, and links to friends' resources and other people who we're in relationship with that we would recommend their stuff for kids. So that's all on SethDahl.com. And if you sign up for the mailing list, you get free things, whether you're a parent or a children's pastor or both. And we're always mixing that up so you get different things, different times. Sorry. Now I forgot the last question. We only have 12 to 15 kids, very disruptive. Do you have seating suggestions? I would do boys on one side, girls on the other, for sure. Make it a little competition. There's nothing wrong with a little good, healthy competition, playing against each other in a good way, like a game. So good, thanks. Well, thank you guys for joining. It's always a pleasure to serve, always a pleasure to... Oh, does this strategy work with games? Thank you for asking that again. No, I wouldn't use it during games because you don't want kids to be quiet during games. You want them to be engaged in the games. Teenage rewards, I would keep stuff small so that way they don't actually expect like an iPod every week or an iPod Nano or whatever. Don't do big things. Just find what motivates them. That helps. We did candy with teenagers in New York as well, and it motivated them that they were getting free candy. And in Connecticut, I'll be at Engaging Heaven Center, Engaging Heaven Church. You can Google that and find it. I'm not sure the website 100% right now. But yes, thank you, Havila, for punching all that in there. Again, it's a pleasure to serve you. It's a pleasure to pass on tools that we have, resources we have. We are working through this stuff all the time. We have large classrooms. We have lots of kids. We have lots of team. We're constantly adjusting, constantly tweaking, constantly learning how to get better and better. And we love to pass this stuff on to you here on Periscope and anywhere else you might find it, Facebook, YouTube, things like that. But watch for it again. A lot of people have been asking questions about special needs. That's what I want to tell you about SethDahl.com. If you click on the children's pastor part, you can ask whatever question you want, and it's really easy for us to keep track of them when the questions are on SethDahl.com. We've had a lot of people asking about special needs, both special needs kids who are integrated into the classroom and special needs classrooms. And so we're going to bring our children's pastor who runs all the special needs here. We're going to bring her in a session potentially Friday. So watch for that. I'm going to post it on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I'll post those things. But we really want to help you with special needs. Our girl here is killing it with special needs. She's seeing so much breakthrough with these kids. It's awesome. And it would be foolish for me to tell you. I'll let her do it. So watch for that coming up soon. And again, thank you so much for tuning in and watching this and letting me serve you. That's right. Thanks, Havila. The kids are our future. Yes, they are. 20 years from now, they are in charge of a lot of stuff. We got to teach them. Their choices matter. Here's one thing I'd love to say, and then I'll leave you with this. I want children to learn that their choices affect people around them, and there are consequences for their choices when it is balloons and candy at stake, because there are far too many kids who do not know, they don't learn, my choices have consequences when there's a balloon and candy, and they end up having to learn it when it's drugs, guns, and jail, or worse. So this is all just stuff for our future, for the children of our future, the future world. Our choices matter. Their choices matter. There's consequences. So bless you all, and I will see you again sometime soon. Thanks so much for tuning in.